Okay. And we're live.
At least it works.
Yeah. Yeah, the power supply burned up on this. We haven't used it since March of 2020.
Is that one meeting?
Yeah, the power supply was, I mean, it was hot to the touch and
Yeah.
it fried itself, so.
It's not even worth trying to use it.
Yeah, so now I have a spare. And it's funny, it's a little internet device.
Yeah.
That's all you need to stream meetings. You don't even need a laptop or anything.
Wow.
As long as it's paired up to your YouTube streaming channel, which we do,
Yeah.
it says West Goshen Township paired right on the device. You just go to the screen
Wow,
and
that's easy.
stream and boom, you're done. So you can do remotes as long as you have, I mean, Wi-Fi is probably a little touchy, but you could even do like one of those jetpacks or a hotspot.
Yeah.
I mean, the quality probably won't be super because we've got gigabit Ethernet here, but you know, if you're out doing a remote, you can still do that as long as you have power to it. You know.
Is it just for YouTube or do you use it for other?
There are probably 8 or 9 different platforms that you can choose.
Do you use it for?
Yeah, I mean, there's even one, and I think it's a service that some big church set up to live stream church services.
Oh, yeah, probably.
And they set up their own platform. And it's no different than YouTube, but it's it's whatever.com, whatever, you go there to view them.
Yeah. Providence Church has that, I think.
What's that?
Providence Church,
Oh, okay.
I think they do that.
Nice.
Live stream.
Yeah, I mean, it was hot during COVID, so.
Yeah.
So. Okay, I got 2 things for you. Oh, Tina, I'm gonna give Dave this. This is the Manor Drive sanitary map.
Okay.
For tomorrow night, for
Yeah.
discussion, so I'm not gonna do it tomorrow night.
Okay. They can't add me.
Yeah.
I gotta figure out how what is going to present the rate increase when the fresh water.
That is so funny.
Because it's so large and
it's-
there's so many tabs.
Yeah, it's not even,
But you can put it on
17. It's-
I know.
I mean, we couldn't even
Try it for
No, it would be Microsoft.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was wondering how they're gonna do that.
Yeah, it's not printable.
See it while you're talking about it?
Yeah.
So I just want to know that.
Yeah, so you can tap through at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go through the 2 tabs, each one whole time, I'm like, okay, what did I just see?
Right.
That's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the comparison. All right, I'll bring my laptop, I just need the password tomorrow night.
What's the new gadget? The
Oh,
widget?
that's like a 3-port plug. So you guys can plug in, and I got myself a power strip, so I'm not plugged into both. So I now have a 3-port for you over there. So it works. And I'm talking to Josh about redoing all the electronics under here, because it's
Yeah. I'll let you know tomorrow night. We have so many projects going on. I don't want to tell you the wrong date.
No.
Yeah.
I'll double check with Mike.
No, I want to check that one out.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. I think that's like 8 of
I've
them.
been more tied up with West Town Way.
Here's the,
How are you?
Oh, somewhere?
It's just a big,
for Kristen.
there's a lot of moving parts.
Oh, yeah.
Taylor's Mills
I
kind
have
of,
these 2.
it's a complex pumping issue,
Yeah.
This is
but
like-
the pump station
Were
works.
they in my note? I think they must have been in my note. Where?
West Town Way.
These are already recorded.
Oh, yours? Good deal.
Why they got sent?
It's a nightmare. We're trying to do anything.
Yes, that was.
That change it.
Yeah, so we just need each other.
No, it's an old ancient Indian burial ground.
Yeah.
It's very-
And,
So he wants to
I
replace it.
sent that email, reached out to them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The lady was clear.
We have a strange
Yeah.
situation. She's there.
Not getting all the names. And Brian said, that's what this is about. She doesn't get,
That's
she's
what
not
they're
getting
going
so.
to
Person who's like cheating on my husband. I'm going back to secretary. Yeah, so, no, well, so that's what I'm about to say, that he's good now, yeah.
Show up real.
Repeatedly.
You guys sum it up, is it?
No, we have our own alpaca.
I wasn't sure we could be good or not.
Hey, Casey.
Rick, how you doing?
And just a heads
Wow,
up.
thanks for putting it in the big stuff so I can actually read it. Seriously,
What's that?
That was me.
Oh.
Oh,
You're so.
I was like, what?
It's just a heads up.
You guys put it together.
Heads up.
Oh, really? Okay, sorry.
No salty lamps.
Three different
That's
things.
Jeff.
I usually do.
Yeah.
They're talking like this, yeah, we need some literature for you.
Oh, this is the, great, that you will get 27. Yeah.
So I'll probably stop over there after this, and you want to give me something, I'll bring it over.
Good evening, Doug. How are you?
I got that voicemail that you gave me. I'm gonna go back to you. You sent me that voicemail.
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to reply to you, so I'll follow up with you with another conversation, okay?
That's all that's on the signature. Really check the presentation, but it would make sense. We're not a-
No, they're agreeing to let us, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I didn't actually
to sign.
Right, I know, that's what they were saying, I thought.
that close.
You would do it, that's like, okay, I'm going to hear about it. And then,
Oh, the other thing, I didn't get a confirmation on
I
my.
did, I said,
Oh, you did? Okay. Okay. I probably missed it.
no, I'm just saying, I didn't bother.
Where are you going that back?
Sheriff's.
Oh.
Yeah, I just like to have a record.
Rush hour traffic.
I said, I'd be happy to take the fuel.
They sent a tow truck from Jersey to come get it.
Hey, Doug.
That's what this was.
They like me. United States or wherever.
It's going to
They have a couple of firms.
be really short.
John, how are you?
Good. Have you heard back from Justin yet? You got another video.
Yeah, I saw it in the email.
Good if we can get that.
Same what we saw, or different. Same kind of quality of noise or.
It was the same noise, it's just a matter of loudness. I'm not sure where she lives, she didn't put her address down there. She lives along Mary Jane, and looking at the canopy of trees.
I'll send a reminder tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know where it's the, this isn't going on.
Okay.
These are signed over.
Yeah, Kristen had to get the attorney, Kristen. What's up, you? How are you? That's a good one. That's a good way to see it. Good way to be.
Especially when you're looking at
And too much work to do.
I normally, unless there's something else.
Maybe we could have a work project where we drink alcohol.
Let me know.
Invite me to that one, Robin.
Okay, we're gonna invite them all.
I'm in.
Yeah.
Maybe we could be.
How about for
both on those.
So usually go.
yeah.
Go with the bridge somewhere.
Or, I mean, like, we said it's 8 on the clock.
Oh, yeah, those are for, yeah, those are you and I are supposed to be together
And then once we do it, I'll like to make it.
on Tuesday, and then we did, we finish up on Thursday.
Good idea.
So I'll send you an email.
So the two for,
And they separated them out because this guy is from Virginia, and then these two candidates are local. Malvern, and Exeter, which is like a first level, yes.
both Garfield.
What's that?
Both
They're
Garfield.
all the same. Those
Both
are all the
Garfield?
same guys?
Yes.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So if you want more,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They're good.
Well, that's
Okay.
yeah, that we just thought,
Yeah.
they've got a consensus on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
As it's-
again, I'm not sure that, yeah, we have it, so they,
Okay.
we have very fun property, that's the purpose, we're going to just keep that.
Never dealt with that.
Yeah, it's just,
It's on small scale projects, when you're just going over the fine scope, you don't have anything permanent after
Get a
that.
big crowd tonight.
There's nothing paying or.
Well, that means it's not
paying.
That's true, the buses that arrived yet.
They usually do the construction.
Yeah. My problem is if you record that, then every time the property's sold, it just shows up in the chain of title, you're like, oh, what is this?
Oh, no, there's definitely major plans.
Yeah.
So we can send that out to you to see the information. This guy.
They're probably not gonna accept
That
this.
project,
Because it has to be,
the old
that
Supervisors.
he is signing, he's practicing
They're
something,
rolling
that
through
they're
there.
video message, and then send it out.
Just quick, just quick.
And the notary should have accepted it.
Right. For this one,
I don't think the recorders have accepted, because the property owner,
how soon do you think?
they're at all, they're like, he signed it. He notarized it as him individually, not in his capacity as a member.
Not been trouble in the cities.
right, what it is.
You can't do that. The notary is screwed up. Yeah, notary should have said, you know, Michael Mastery. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he should write up his name as member of, and then that's how the notary should be. It's usually just member. Do you want to take care of getting that redone? Are these all the same? Okay, sorry about that. I just, every time I get a report, it's. Oh, yes, they would. Every single time I try to get something, they would send it back.
Well, see, you got a challenge.
We try that. Try. I know who I have to.
Good. Okay, well, welcome to our, August the 3rd West Goshen Township Supervisors meeting. If you would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to start the meeting, thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So a fairly short agenda tonight, just 3 items of regular business. Please be aware that our usual streaming to our YouTube channel is in effect, and if not you, Doug or Tina, someone may join us in audio-video record the meeting. So the first item is one that we requested Casey and staff work on, which was to develop a township emergency communications policy. And this was one of the actions that came out of the most recent incident at the Sunoco, at the Energy Transfer Boot Road pump station spill that happened. So Casey, do you want to lead us through what you've prepared here?
This is meant to be a publicly releasable, publicly posted plan. There is nothing that gives away any operational details by the fire company, hazmat team, PEMA, anybody. This is meant to be digested by the public and used by the public as a guiding document. Now again, this is a first draft. You're seeing it for the first time. This is modeled after Florida Atlantic University. What I found was, because of, and I hate to say it, mass shootings that occur on campuses, other issues like that occur on campuses, I found a lot of good examples in the campus environment where there's an initial message sent out to the student body, faculty, et cetera, et cetera. Florida Atlantic's a big campus. They have multiple campuses. So I reviewed probably 10 or 15 policies across, as many as I could find across the spectrum of these notification kind of ideas. Florida Atlantic's was very clear with the intent. The actual policy itself, it's posted on their website, it's given to the students. The faculty, all the staff know exactly what to do, to wait for that text, and it pretty much met what I thought would be a good starting point for us to discuss. It met all the criteria for, and meshed in with our Connect CTY system, and also Ready Chesco. So I took that as a model and tweaked it for our use. And again, this is for when it's adopted, it will be publicly disseminated with a strong recommendation from the board to sign up for both Connect CTY with us and Ready Chesco. I have submitted this for comment to Chester County Emergency Services. It's vacation time. I have not gotten anything back. I've given it, consulted with Chief Carroll. Andrea Testa's on vacation this week, so she didn't provide any comment, but she's back, I think, tomorrow or back tomorrow. So I'll get comment back from her as well. But again, this is a starting point, and it goes through everything from the bullet points are overview, purpose, and scope, the actual policy itself, planning for an emergency, the two systems, emergency notification systems we use, emergency incident levels, emergency message authorization, notification guidelines and message language, and then those guidelines are below on page 3 and 4. The language that should be in these messages is spelled out, and then the decision to use the notification systems is laid out, and then what's always critical, we need to test these systems regularly. Now, we do use Connect CTY frequently, only for emergencies, blizzards coming, trash delayed. So we're comfortable as a staff with it already. So it's not going to be, this isn't a new product that we're buying. We don't know how to use it yet. We need training. We're already there. Now, there may be some training needed on the police side because we typically only use it.
They use it quite a bit.
Oh, that's true. No, they use it for standoffs and everything. That's true. So that's an overview of what is in front of you. Of course, I need feedback to get this straightened out and done. But I needed to get some kind of document in front of you, and it's a starting point. So.
Great, thanks, Casey.
Sure.
So in terms of a process, why don't we just have the board give you that feedback,
Absolutely.
that bills, have a discussion if there's any issues that we need to kind of work through.
Definitely.
And then my understanding is you'd be able to incorporate those, make sure you've got a review with Andrea.
Absolutely.
What's our deadline? Do you have a deadline in terms of having something finalized for use with the desktop tabletop exercise that's scheduled for September?
If I can push DES to have their review back, I'd like this back in front of you on the 17th of August. Final. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So it's 2 weeks away, but as long, I mean, again, vacation schedules are dicey right now, but if I can get at least one set of eyes at the county to look at this, and I don't know if the county even has anything like this. I don't know that. I couldn't find any other townships really that have something.
Did you ever get a
like this in
response
place.
from West Whiteland?
Did not, and I can't find any reference to that policy anywhere in writing on their website. Nothing. There's nothing publicly out there.
Okay.
So this is just a draft. So
All right, why don't we, John, you want to kick us off with whatever review comments you have? How you
Sure.
did it?
Yeah, first of all, I thought it was pretty good. It's a good starting point for sure. A couple of questions come to mind right off the bat.
Yep.
This is only going to be as effective as the extent to which the residents buy into it.
Correct.
So how can we go about expanding what we already have in the way of resident contact information to ensure that all residents would be part of this?
we can't. We cannot mandate that. We don't have any way to data mine that information and force people into the system. There is no way to do that. It's voluntary. Even reverse 911 does not work. When the county uses that system, that's not foolproof either. Ready Chesco is opt-in. Connect CTY is opt-in. We have no way to mandate participation.
But there are things we can do, obviously, such as education.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah,
Put it in the
absolutely.
e-letter,
Uh-huh.
and also in the hard copy and newsletter.
Yep.
and any other way which.
Yeah, we can go so far as to do a postcard, whatever you want to do, we will do
That's
whatever
something
you want to do for
that would be another
education.
consideration, we can actually send out cards at some point.
Absolutely.
Once this is ready to be put into place.
Yeah, especially to the high impact area along Boot Road, absolutely.
Which brings up my next question.
Mhm.
What are the radius standards for the different levels? We have level 1, which is an incident of interest, and then a level 2, which would be an escalating catastrophic event. I don't see anything in here which would lay out what the radius would be for those who would be contacted, given the particular incident.
I don't believe there are.
I'm not asking you to answer that necessarily.
No,
I'm just saying that's a question that needs to be
Absolutely.
addressed.
I would suggest that there is no hard and fast rule. I think the board, as policy, can set those parameters. If you want, I've heard anything from 660 feet to 2,000 feet from the pipeline, which 2,000 feet is, almost a half a mile. So I think the board should do some thinking about the geographic area you want to hit with this, with a CTY message. Level 1 and level 2, I think they should be the same, in all honesty.
You mean as far as really radius?
Yeah. Because someone who's a half a mile may be driving home and see the fire trucks at the pump station, and they're still only half a mile away, and still have questions and not get a call. I don't know. That's up to the board. It's strictly policy. Strictly policy.
Would that go in the policy?
I think it should be, absolutely. So people can do their own math with Google Maps, Earth, and see how far they are away from the pipeline, see if they're included in that exclusion zone or inclusion zone, and then they can make the determination if they want to opt in to those messages.
Those are two things that come to mind immediately.
Yeah.
So we will just engage with you with an email today?
Absolutely, yes. Send me any comment. Absolutely, of course. No.
Any other comments, Connie?
No, that's all I have for now.
Ashley?
No, this seems like everything we sort of talked about. You met with Andrea and the chief.
They are as up to date as we are right now with this, but I do need comment back from them. They have not given me any comment.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean good or bad comments, just they have others.
Yeah, I guess we're on the same page about the fact that it really kind of relies on the incident commander to make the call about whether this is going to be a level 1
Right.
or not at all.
And the level 2, I don't have language for that. In all honesty, that was just something I put in there.
So there's these
I'm waiting back
questions.
for DES with some recommended language, what a level 2 event would be. I
The
just called it an
questions that are
escalating
listed
event.
here under 3, emergency communications activation
Yep.
decision.
Mhm.
Those are all the questions that the person who is in charge, I guess, at the time are going to have to ask themselves about. Yeah.
Yeah. And whether that, it starts with the incident commander, typically the fire chief, and then, God forbid, we get into even something beyond level 2. We could get an order from an assistance request from PEMA to send out a message, because we have the more robust system than Ready Chesco, where we can geographically carve out an area to send a message. As Ready Chesco is, they hit the button for West Goshen, it goes to everybody in the county. Everybody in the township.
Yeah.
So, we could be asked to do that by a PEMA representative who is then put in charge of an incident.
I think this looks really good.
Okay, good.
You guys did a really good job putting this together.
So before I ask you and Robin for comments, just as I've listened so far, so we were obviously very specific about the policy being, well, right now it's written in a general way.
Yes,
To cover
it's-
emergencies.
it's
Yet
an
the
all hazard.
conversation when we get to level 1, level 2, and all
Yeah.
the language in here is more specific to a pipeline emergency communication policy.
Right, that was my next question to you. How specific do you want this as a general, because we could have a tanker truck accident down on 202, where this would come into play, and keep it general, or we could have a Boot Road situation. Now, we can, on the fly, do a map and send a message to Roslyn or whatever, and we do it all the time with paving and other things, that we, on the fly, we make a map and send a message.
It's fast. So people
I can have a message, we can do it from our cell phones, it's that fast. So, we can do it on
You
scene.
can select an area to send to.
Well, there's two things. We can select a radius.
Yep.
We can make our own polygon.
Yep,
We can also, and I've never done it, I know it's a feature on it.
yep,
You can also put it a geolocate.
Yes,
So
exactly.
if somebody driving home 202 that lives in Roslyn stops, or is just driving home or stops at the Rite Aid,
Right.
if they're within whatever that is,
yep,
their cell phone email will get a notification.
right.
If they're signed up.
If they're signed up,
If-
that's the critical.
And really, the big thing is when we started CTY years ago, we had really good numbers because everybody still had their home numbers.
Yep,
Everybody's gotten rid of their home numbers and nobody's updated their system.
right,
So really, when we put it out for trash or snow or
Yep.
paving, we really hit good on email.
uh-huh.
We have some cell phones,
Mhm.
but we only get maybe 50% of house phones
Right,
that
the
we call out.
landlines are going down, that's the
Yeah.
problem. Yep,
Sorry, go ahead, Sean, I know you're in the middle, so to ask your question.
No, I mean, I think that was a good answer in that we're trying to make this so it can be used as a general emergency communication policy. The key really is to make sure that it solves the original problem, which is that those residents who are close to the Boot Road pump station are, know about it, opt in, are available, and you're ready to go if there are continued incidents there, as there could well be.
sure,
So,
exactly.
so that was
Yeah,
my
so,
question.
so we can go so far as to, with board direction, set up map templates for those various levels, for the entire, if you go 660, if you go 2000, we can set up, from the East Goshen border all the way west to West Whiteland, a polygon of that, capturing all those neighborhoods within that distance, and set a template message, at least for the, now, obviously, the follow-up messages are gonna be unique, because it's minute by minute what's going on, well, not minute by minute, but updates as they come, exactly.
But that's what we'll be able to test in the tabletop.
Exactly, absolutely. So we'll at least be able to have a template message of Boot Road Pump Station, incident of public concern, with the messaging criteria in here, and that'll go out as the test to the people in the room to see how it works.
So just one other comment before I pass it on. I do think a level 2 is not necessarily an escalation. It could be from the start that it's a level 2.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
Right.
we just need to look at the language under emergency incident levels. Number 2, it could be an escalating emergency,
Right.
or it could be defined by the incident commander as soon as they arrive on the scene.
Right.
That there's a gas leak beyond the property bounds.
Exactly.
So I think we just need to look at that.
Right.
Look at the language there and make sure it's appropriate for either from the start or if it escalates.
Escalates from there, exactly.
Okay, thanks. You? Comments? Robin?
Yeah, I just want to give this some thought. I think it'd be helpful under the emergency follow-up and status update notification if you were to break out each of these sequences instead of having it in a large paragraph, because I'm asking myself about instructions for township residents and property owners, such as changes in protective actions. I feel that could be an event that is relevant for them to understand, part of that discussion we had last month where we talked about the incident issue,
Right.
the event, for
Yeah.
residents to know about it. So
Right.
I would just break this into pieces where it can be very clearly followed, step 1, 2,
Right.
3, 4,
Mhm.
because I think that would be more helpful. Could you explain a little bit more about the all clear recovery information? Does that require also information closing down?
Yeah, from the get-go with Blackboard Connect, with the training, now obviously with something like a blizzard or trash, we're not, I mean, a blizzard's an emergency, but it's not a tidal wave going to wipe us out. If we have an incident where we have a tanker truck on fire, and it's a 6-hour duration event of some crazy chemical it's releasing, and the fire company does their usual excellent work, and they get the fire out, there always should be a follow-up phone call saying, emergency's over, resume your normal activity, whatever. That's always what should happen during a pinpoint emergency like that. That's always been Blackboard Connect's, the last thing you should do during a crazy emergency like that. House fire or anything that affects the general population. We should always close out the incident.
If you're using that tanker example,
Yeah.
one of the problems after you have extinguishment would be contamination.
Absolutely, sure. We have contaminated stormwater.
That could extend for another 6, 12 hours.
Absolutely.
24 hours.
Yeah, so we would continue with the messaging, please stay away from the intersection of whatever during, and because continuing cleanup operations are in order. If we have a major commercial fire, I'm just trying to think of an event where we recommend people stay away. There could be leftover, there could be a black, a black plume of hazardous acrid smoke, stay away from there, and then periodic updates until we're all clear.
So is it a question of whether we're putting a pipeline-specific thing into this policy, or whether this is going to just be like blanket coverage for any emergency?
That's board's discretion. That's board's discretion. This is more written as a general, I hate to say it, all hazards.
I think we agreed that having it as all hazards was good, it was the right approach because it can cover so many things. But what we need to do is make sure as part of the education rollout that we clearly get anyone near the Boot Road pump station
Absolutely.
to be contactable with the ability to use the policy. They want that, so this is solving a need that they asked for. Casey, I have one other comment here. I'm sorry, Robert, did you finish?
No, that's it, yeah.
Okay. Under emergency notification and alerting, so this means any of the situations where we're going to do it, I believe. We talk about initial notification, comes from either the incident commander or the other individuals who have the authority to do it. When they have confirmed that an emergency situation poses or may reasonably be expected to pose an immediate threat. So I don't think an immediate threat, for example, is a level 1. As it applied to the pump seal failure.
That's true.
So we don't want to make it, if you get a notification of any sort against
You're in jeopardy.
threat, we should have it that it's going to describe whether it's a level 1 or a level 2 situation.
Good.
But I agree with, it's a great start. It's got 90% of what we want.
Good.
Still fine tuning,
Yeah.
see what Mike Murphy has to say and his team.
Good.
And then we're ready to, if we can get it approved here in August, we'll put it through its paces with the Connect system during the tabletop exercise. And I'm sure we'll learn a bunch of, the messages work quite right, or we work frequent enough, or we're too frequent, whatever it is, we'll find out.
Exactly. Okay.
We'll be able to, adjust it further from there.
Very good.
I think your idea of looking into universities is a really good one.
That's where the research led. It was pretty
Yeah.
quick, and they're responsive to. Penn State has 50,000 kids on
Yeah,
campus.
it's amazing.
They're
And
really-
they send out
yes.
messages
And the
for.
parents can get it too.
Yeah, you can sign up for it.
Sometimes you don't want that.
Yeah, and the Connect Connect City, CTY City, they make the educational component.
I was going to say, is this a Blackboard that they use at the
Blackboard.
university?
Most of them do.
Yeah, I thought it might be the same system.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
good done.
Okay, good.
Any final comments from the
Yeah,
board?
just final question. As we engage in this email exchange, board
Yeah,
communication, is there going to be any issues regarding the sunshine law? I mean, we'll just be exchanging information and not
Yeah,
making it.
just send it to me, there's no
Just send
deliberations.
direct,
Yeah, just
don't send it reply all, just send your
Yeah, just-
individual comments.
send them directly
So
to
then
me
you're
with no
discussing
copy.
policy business
Right.
through an email. So
Yeah.
you should individually send your comments to Casey.
Right, and I'll compile them and then we'll present them on the 17th as the final tweaked version with everybody else's.
Yeah, but at some point, you're going to need to be able to let all the rest of the board members know these were the different issues that were submitted to you, so for
Yeah.
consideration.
I mean, when Casey sends it back out as a revised draft, you can attach your
Yeah.
individual
Okay.
email if you want, or you can try to summarize what the comments were.
Yeah. And then
But
we'll
you
get
can't
this
have what the Sunshine Law doesn't want you to do is be deliberating and conducting business like you're doing now through an email, because that's,
Okay.
Is there any comments or questions from the public attending tonight? Tina, you have your hand up?
I do.
Okay.
I think it was well written, but I do have some comments. I can send it to Casey if that's appropriate.
Sure.
Just starting off on overview, I thought that there, where it said to immediately notify West Goshen Township community, I thought there should be a definition of immediate.
Hugh's having a little trouble hearing you, Tina. Do you want to come a little closer? Or? Thank you.
In the overview,
Mhm.
where it says immediate, I thought that there should be a definition of what immediate is somewhere in the document. And then, second paragraph, where we talk about, under overview, where we talk about during an incident, it talks about emergency communications may include, I just said, but not limited to, and then it explains what it is there, alerts and so forth. Because there could be other things that are not listed there. Under overview, again, the last paragraph, I just added residents there. I thought residents, the actual board of residents should be included in addition to the other stuff that's in there. And then on the second page, under number 7, planning for emergency, it just indicated a constant evaluation of the effectiveness of the alert system components is required. I just thought there should be a frequency in there, maybe every 6 months or however.
Well, that'll be more direction as to how often we do it.
I just thought it
I
should
just
be
wanted to
in
keep
there.
it as general, so we have flexibility.
Okay.
That's all.
And then also under level 1, under emergency incident levels, at level 1, right after you say an incident of public concern, I just put IE and said the public needs to shelter in place or evacuate, some type of example of what that means.
Well, actually, that is not those
That's- yeah.
examples. That's more for the emergency level 2.
Right.
Incident of public concern is something where there is emergency response to a location,
Right.
but there may not be any incident that's actually causing a threat to the public or
Right.
the property.
Okay. That wasn't clear to me, what you just said. I like that, but it wasn't clear.
Yeah, this was actually provided to us by
Like,
county emergency services. This was
Okay.
the terminology they would like
That
to
they
use.
use, okay, okay. And then I added a level 3 and 4 under that same category there. I added level 3, which is a non-emergency notification, so like road closures. Because this is
we don't typically do those.
Okay, so I did 2
Yeah.
ways, and then level 4, I said timely notification of a missing child. And then I said this policy will only cover level 1 and 2 emergencies, referred policy, whatever it is, for level 3 and 4 type of emergencies, or included in here and elected on it.
You know, we typically don't do those at all. I mean, that's a separate thing that the police may do, but it's not, I mean, to the parents, it's an emergency, but that wasn't the intent of this. It wasn't to,
Be it like an Amber Alert.
yeah, no, exactly. Or, I mean, Blackboard does training on how to use it for, if, like an Alzheimer's patient walks away from a home, you know, you do the initial radius. Have you seen this person dressed this way? And then you carve out the donut, and then you expand the radius, that kind of stuff. We don't do that. We don't do that at the local level. The police may do it, but it's not a broad emergency. It's for that family, yes, it is an emergency, and for that person, but that wasn't the intent of this, to do that
Yeah, I
kind of
just
stuff.
looked at emergencies, and I thought,
Yeah.
okay, what are the type of emergencies?
Mhm.
No,
Yeah, I
Yeah,
understand.
I don't want to include, that's fine, I just thought,
Well, then who does road closures? So I know Red Chesco, they'll do some of that kind of stuff, but do they do that?
and also when we have certain things going on, like the sewer thing we did on Five Plains Road.
We'll do it for something like that.
Yeah.
We had the tanker truck incident, Matlack in 202.
Yeah,
Right.
where they spill over.
We'll typically get involved with something like that, but somebody's closing the road for a block party, we don't typically get involved with that.
But even during a wind event or a blizzard, we don't go to that much detail, except in general, stay home, there's a blizzard coming. We don't get down to the street specific, because we put up barricades, you just have to follow the barricades. I just did not want to inundate everybody with constant emergency messages about all kinds of stuff. That wasn't.
Yeah, I just thought
so.
if you do some, should they be included in here, since this is an emergency? I know you don't do a lot, but whatever you do,
Mhm.
township should probably be included in this document.
Okay.
And then also under after the section of emergency incident levels,
Mhm.
I just added a section called, which I call chain of command, which would be like, what are the steps involved in this emergency? Like an example with the pipeline, an alarm triggers or serious incident occurs, step number 1. The pipeline or the incident commander notifies 911. Maybe another step is a question mark goes to the site to evaluate the situation. Follow emergency response plan. just kind of a level of.
Yeah,
Look, Tina, that's specific to the practices of the fire company,
Right.
PAD. This is about a communication policy.
Right.
Okay.
And what we're trying to outline here is who has the authorization in terms of incident commander is the one first, then it would be the township emergency department coordinator, Andrea, if she's called out to that incident, and then the police officials. It's
Yeah,
really
this
about
is-
communication
Okay.
versus
Right.
the
Actual
activity.
response,
Response.
exactly,
Okay.
right.
Then I added under emergency message authorization, as
Mhm.
far as the people that have authorization, I added trained and certified hazmat responder.
I don't believe they would get involved in that. The incident commander is still involved,
Okay.
even when hazmat shows up. Grant Everhart or whoever's still in charge, even when hazmat shows up, they're just the people going into the
Because
structure.
they really evaluate it.
Yeah, yeah, and just
Tell them
communicate back to the
change,
incident
yeah.
commander, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not traded off when hazmat shows up to anyone. I mean, there's an on-site hazmat commander, but it's not, they're just commanding their troops, they're not in overall control.
Report to the community center
Right,
and for the incident commanders, those.
right, okay.
Okay, and I only have like one more. Under 3, emergency communication activation decision. Under hazardous characteristics, I just added, is it airborne and or ground surface impacts? Because if it's airborne, you're going to want a different notification than you are if it's hitting the ground. Because airborne would be a lot more, potentially could be a lot more exposure versus ground. 2 different incidents, 2 different responses. I want to know if it's air or something in the ground, like a spill or, because air might be more critical to it. Just a little bit on that piece of it. And then last page, number 4, the Blackboard message testing. As far as training, the exercises, and testing, for all of those 3, I would put in frequency as well. So
Okay.
this was documented and based on. We talk about training, exercising and testing. That's all.
Thanks, Dave.
Good, thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time to provide some comments.
Yeah, send it to me, actually. Email it to me, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doug?
I don't have the document in front of me, but is there anything in there that discusses how to get the word out during these instances without creating panic?
That's actually in there. I'll read it to you, hold on.
So that's addressed.
It's under planning for an emergency, number 5. Incorrect information may be generated and distributed by individuals outside official channels, such as word of mouth, text messaging. This requires West Goshen Township alert messages to be clear, concise, accurate, and readily identifiable as official township alert messages. So it kind of knocks down
The chances of something like.
well, no, it's still going to happen, but it's going to train people to only listen to the official messages they receive from incident commander, police department only. Do not rely on Nextdoor or Facebook or anything. And we just have to train and educate our residents to only listen to official messages.
Is that what your question was about? The ability for us to kind of be the official voice, or was it concerned about that even our messaging may cause more problems?
Well, just if there's a way to do the message, to properly inform the residents, but not panic them,
Yeah.
to cause
Yep.
a way.
So my answer to that would be, what we want to do is have some standard messages that are ready to go.
Yep.
That are kind of, people will see and know that just refers to something that is hopefully relatively straightforward.
Right.
It is, an adequate answer without having them think there's something else still going on. So it's all down to the quality of the words you use, the ability to get that message out in a timely manner,
Yep.
and then follow up in an appropriate way at the right period. So that's what these tabletop exercises are designed to do. We do a tabletop exercise in September, and the people who get the first notification say, I don't understand what this means. Is this a bad situation or not? Then obviously what we've said isn't adequate enough, and we'll have to go back to the drawing board on it. If it's clear and it's simple, and it refers to kind of what they understand about the kind of incidents, hopefully that's where we aim for. So.
And a lot of it's the
the perception of the public and how a particular person responds.
Yeah.
Even when you have a good message that gets out,
Mhm.
a person may be so sensitive to everything they hear and
Mhm.
that
I don't read it.
Or well, it's interesting, when we do a trash blizzard, Kate will get, not a whole lot, 15 to 20 calls back. Hey, you called me, what did you want? Because they either went to their answering machine or they hung up on it as soon as it hit their cell. Because it comes up as West Goshen Township, and they call, ignore. Oh, I better check with the township one, and so she fields all the calls. Not a whole lot, just 15 to 30, and she tells them this was a CTY message, she
Well,
essentially has
that's
to
a
tell
really
them
good point
again.
though, so, I
Well-
mean, let's like imagine that this goes out and then suddenly people start flooding the
Yeah,
township.
that's true,
phone
yeah,
calls. So
exactly.
that's something to
That is something
be
to
prepared for.
consider, yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing happens whenever we send one out. I always copy the police dispatch.
Yeah, because they don't get calls too.
We typically do the calls 6 or 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
People do the same thing, West Goshen.
Yeah.
Then they call dispatch. Dispatch has no idea.
Yeah. And when we have a scheduled trash or sometimes with blizzards, if we know the forecast pretty well, but a timed call, I now do them at like 11 o'clock in the morning. So someone's here to answer the phone back when they call.
So, to the specific problem.
Yeah.
Is it something you want to define in a policy, or are you going to just have practices that have to be available to work 24/7,
Yeah.
365?
I think it's going to have to be something that works universally. And we are going to get people to call, or people are going to call no matter what, because they just woke up at 3 a.m.
So if
and
they
see their phone.
call the police at 3 a.m., it's going to go to
It's
the
going to go to
county.
county, yeah.
Will the county have access and understand that we put out a text message?
In an incident like this, that 911 will be notified, we will notify 911 that there is an incident going on, and they'll know. I mean,
Yeah.
No, but should that be?
It's
in
one
there,
room.
The
I
other
think
thing,
that might be a good idea.
Put it in, and
Yep,
let's
yep, yep.
make sure it's something that we could consider.
the other thing, when we do the notification, to get people to sign up or renew get their emails. Because
Yeah.
whatever we send out as a voicemail, they will get in an email.
Mhm.
So at 2 o'clock in the morning, I just woke up,
Absolutely.
who called me? It's right there on their email.
Mhm.
They'll get it
Yeah.
simultaneously.
We get it, like for the school district, you get it on your cell phone, the kids get it
All the
on their
time, at
phones,
5
you get our emails, but it's good because it's.
But it's every
School
hour,
loop.
yeah, yeah. No,
It's
it's
making
people
sure
call
you
at
miss
5 in
it.
the morning.
Over
Yeah.
those days.
Yeah,
Especially for an emergency, right?
Very
yeah,
good.
no, that's the. So wait, when they sign up for Blackboard Connect, because I did this a couple weeks ago, so I
Yeah.
can't forget, but like, when you sign up,
Yeah.
do you ask for email? or
Yeah,
no?
it's
Yeah.
all in there. We can do don't quote me. We can do, it's either 3 or 10, I think it's 3 email addresses in the household
Okay.
tied to that one number. But individuals can sign up multiple accounts. I mean, each member of the family can have their own CTY account with 10 phone numbers, 3 email addresses, and then any cell phones can have a text sent that you click on it for that particular number inside your profile. So it's,
The texting is very limited.
oh yeah, it's tiny.
It's 30 or 40 characters. It's really small.
Yeah, I have to very carefully craft my messages for text.
Do you also have it as a link on your web, that
Oh,
if
yeah.
somebody missed it, went to your website, they could hit a video of the message or something?
No, that's not offered as part of the system. And I don't know if I want to direct people to the website for emergency information, because that's going to require us to do. And another thing, I did not include any social media postings. We're not going to put it on Facebook necessarily. If we have a longer duration event,
Yeah.
we might start posting to Twitter and Facebook, but I do not want people to automatically go to our Facebook page.
Could you at least put on your web that emergency notification was sent out for more information, go to blah, blah, blah?
Someone would have to
like that?
sit and update it, that's all.
Because
And
now
2
please
o'clock
think
in
of
the morning.
the time of when this actually happened, the most
Yeah.
recent incident.
Yeah.
What we want is a system of people who know there's a problem
Yeah.
and get information, and that's why
It's
we're going to use this
Exactly.
communication policy.
Yeah. Now, if it's 11 o'clock on a Monday, we're all here, we'll send everything out, because we're here to monitor it and do it correctly, but 2 a.m. on a Sunday, the CTY system is the way to go. Because it's one done, hit send, done.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Hey, Sean, I just have a quick comment. it's to target the messaging to the specific area of the township is very important. Because down at the marina, you put on the no all hazards,
Yeah,
and that tone's going off
all the time.
all the time, and the whole thing gets it, and the storm is 50 miles away,
Right, right.
and then it goes off again, and then it might be 3 miles. So
Sure,
and
sure.
it's the same concept. You're trying to get a message out to everybody, but then that tone's going off too much, and people tend to ignore it. And it's kind of a similar situation.
Yeah, and again, that's why we only use CTY for emergencies.
Which is why for the road closure stuff,
Yeah,
you really have to weigh
yeah.
whether to use that for that, because you don't want to just disregard it, yeah. That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah.
And also the alerts would be geographically specific depending on the level of the emergency and where you live. Question, Casey, in your research and coming up with this,
Yeah.
the different universities,
Yeah.
did they conduct exercises in testing
Yeah.
the effectiveness of the communication system?
Yeah, actually, and there's a local example for this. Quarterly, probably, we get an alert from Julie Dietrich at Westchester University, giving us 2 weeks' notice that they are going to test their student staff notification system.
Okay.
Similar, I don't know if they use Connect EDU, but they may, that they're going to be sending out a test message. I send it right over to dispatch. I let Kate know because, if a resident is on their by accident or in their database, they're going to call us, hey, what's going on? When it was just a test message. So they test theirs, I believe, 4 times a year.
I think that'd be an important component we need to have as part of this policy is the frequency and the being on the schedule.
Yeah, Tina already did suggest that, absolutely. Yeah. And again, we do use this frequently for, again, trash, blizzards, paving, so we're familiar with it. But if you want to set a policy to get really specific and test it a lot, not a lot, quarterly, maybe with the Blue Road corridor, since we've been having so many troubles up there, that would be a great quarterly test to keep people, and prompt people to register. Tell your friends. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Casey, we've given you some comments and some feedback
Yeah.
tonight. You've asked us to email you individually any other follow-ups or thoughts, or
Yeah.
just to get you all incorporated and have a conversation with Andrea and Chief Carroll
And DES, yeah.
and DES. We'll have a final review at the August, the regular meeting, and then we'll put it to the test in September.
Exactly. Okay, good.
Does this same job for PDF on the web?
No, it's a PDF.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So how do you want the comments, just
Or you just send me an email with them
scan it?
noted, or just send me an email with the page where it is exactly. Yeah, we don't post anything.
That's what I
That's
thought.
all,
Okay.
Thank you.
The next agenda item is board discussion of the priorities for the 2022 capital project budget. So I gave the board a heads up that I would like this to have been on the agenda, and the reason is because I think it sometimes makes sense to try to give a little guidance to staff, department heads around, where the board's thinking is relative to the amount of capital spend on equipment and any priority projects the board is interested in seeing as the budget gets prepared. As we know, the last couple of years we've tended to, take the initial input from department heads and kind of cut a few things out and trim the budget down, and that just tends to push some of those projects just off a year or two, and we always see that kind of, what's the word? Snowball pile up in front of us. So I thought it'd be good to just, try to preempt that problem this year and see if we can get a little bit of initial input from the board to give particularly Dave some direction on equipment purchases, capital plan projects, and any other thoughts you have as you looked at the approved budget for this year and what was shown on that plan as being likely as required for 2022's budget. So that's the background on it. I hope the board members have had a chance to kind of remind yourselves of what was on the budget. We have Dave here. Thanks, Dave, for being here tonight to ask questions about specific large equipment items. I'm going to kick it off, and we'll see where we go from there. So my first question, Casey, is in the parks piece.
Yep.
We still show this carrying forward of a potential building, a barn. I mean, can we say that is not
13
something that we're
years.
entertaining at all?
No, at this time, I would push it or just eliminate it. I don't see, I really don't see us building anything out there. Do you? Not of that size.
This was for woodland?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to 2008, I think was the first time it entered the budgeting.
I don't know where we are, if Good Fellowship wants a caterer out there,
Yeah.
you know, we may need a structure of some sort.
Yeah. Certainly not a $250,000 structure, that's for
Okay.
sure. More of not a run-in shed, but something
Okay, so-
more reasonable.
So I'm hearing that, unless the board objects, otherwise the guidance I'm hearing is we don't expect to see a $250,000 building in plans. Dave, for streets, we showed the carry or the second wave of potential equipment needed for the stormwater management operation. So we had another street sweeper and a back truck in there as, I'll say, placeholders in 22. Given where we are right now in 21 with the purchase of the street sweeper, from the conversations I've had with you and others, the idea would be that we would get some operating experience of this equipment, understand how many miles it's covering, its reliability, its effectiveness, and that therefore purchase of a second wave of equipment is really probably a couple of years away. I know we have some deadlines to be in compliance, etc. We're making progress on at least purchasing equipment, and we have budgeted to hire people to operate it. So I feel, it's my personal opinion, I feel we could certainly postpone purchase of more equipment from 22's initial look into subsequent year. Just if you want to share your thoughts, and then we'll hear what the rest of the board says.
Well, we're in year 3 of a 5-year permit.
So it's year 2.
Or year 2, so next year will be year 3. So we don't have a whole lot of time. I mean, I can see doing that with the street sweeper, although we know we need a second one to cover the square miles we have. The one is not going to do it. The back truck for the inlets, that's a continual problem. And right now, if we get a complaint for a clogged inlet, we send 2 guys out with a bucket, and they go down and clean it out.
And dig it.
Hand it.
So the back truck is going to be purchased to clean those out.
Yeah. And we have, how many inlets, right?
Over 3,000.
So, we logistically just cannot get to every inlet. We do them on an as-needed basis. And that's all part of the permitting, so.
And that's unacceptable under the permitting.
Yeah.
MCM 6 requires periodic cleaning of inlets, which we have not ever done.
Yeah.
And one of these days, we're going to get called for it, and it's not going to be good. And the only way to do it efficiently is with back truck. There's no way you clean 3,000 inlets by hand. It's just not possible.
So how frequently would this back truck be used? You've got 3,000 inlets, you're going to do them on a rotating schedule every 5 years and do it 600 a year. What's the plan? How'd you get around it? Is it a 10-year clean-out plan for 3,000 inlets?
No, I mean, we have
They should be cleaned every year.
We have a number of inlet, and the newer neighborhoods are getting the filters and all that need to be cleaned and changed every,
6 months.
quarterly to 6 months, depending on our location. So we literally send guys out with a bucket and shovel.
And again, that's why we, over the past couple of years, longer than that, 7, 8 years, have always theorized about having a specific stormwater crew that only attacks stormwater issues.
Well, yeah, so what's the plan to get to 3,000 inlets with
Yeah.
one back truck?
Well, here's that. We may not hit everyone. Don't listen to that. We may not hit everyone, but we know the ones that are the problem,
Goes down, yeah.
and they will be hit. The other problem, along with Casey, we need a separate stormwater crew, because right now the bulk of the streets guys work Monday to Thursday. Trash collection is Monday and Thursday. So Mondays and Thursdays, you're going to have a tough time sweeping. The thought is to run the stormwater crew Tuesday to Friday. That gives us one trash day in the middle. That's the day we have to we have the service equipment, we have to, you know, it doesn't bother the inlets, they can get done regardless. Street sweeping back in neighborhoods can't be done, but you can do Harrims, you can do Airport, you can do certain other roads.
Where we, you know, the crew is where we've been headed anyways,
Yeah.
what I understand. Because
Yeah.
to be compliant with the permit, it's just about the pace of what we're doing. So this year was to get going, get the street sweeper, and then get some experience with that, is
Right.
my thinking. I like what the rest of the board thinks. Do we believe that we need to push on next year and spend, it's total between the two. Maybe the street sweeper wouldn't be next year, but I don't know, two together is $430,000.
Well, and when you look at 2023, we have a new jet truck for sewer. That's $250,000. So,
Is that going to be needed?
yeah. Our trucks and equipment are not like a contractor's trucks and equipment. That jet truck is sitting at the sewer plant. We can get a call right now that we have a clog that's going into a resident's basement. That truck could be on the road within 15 to 30 minutes and hopefully clear that clog. I worked for a municipality that didn't own their own jet truck. It would take us 4 to 6 hours to get a contractor. That makes a big difference. We have the tanker we replaced a couple years ago. That truck's sitting down at the plant. If we have a manhole overflow, if we have one of the smaller pump stations has an incident, we can pump either the manhole or the wet well until we can set the secondary pumps up, or we can clear the problem. We're not like a contractor that, you know, all right, I'm going to schedule Tuesday, I need that truck, I might rent one, I might do this, I might do that. Our equipment needs to run when we need it.
So where's that truck listed on this thing? I can't find it. What's it under? Is it under streets?
No, sewer.
It's under sewer?
Well, which truck?
The one you're talking about, the jet truck?
Jet truck is sewer.
And you're saying that's 2023?
Yeah.
So I'm just, since we're still on the streets, sort of talking about the street sweeper and the back truck. I mean, it looks like on here, we're saying that there's a dump truck for $195,000. There's a Ford truck for $55,000. And then we're getting the street sweeper. And then we have the back truck for next year. I'm inclined to say, Sean, that I agree about, but I'm also sort of worried about meeting our permit requirements and what would happen if we weren't to meet those requirements? What kind of,
We can be fine.
how much?
Lots, but
A lot.
that's up to DEP and or EPA.
There's a horror story near Harrisburg, I can't remember
Yeah,
which
I think
municipality.
it was Manor Township.
Manor Township, they were audited by DEP and EPA. They came in for a week and checked the entire township for all permit issues. They were fined hundreds of thousands of dollars because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do with the permit. Not that I'm trying to.
And you haven't
So,
heard anything from EPA about like COVID related, like
No,
maybe we're gonna give you guys
no,
another year
no,
extension, nothing?
No, 18, 19 months into it now.
But I mean, most municipalities are not in compliance with their stormwater permits.
No, exactly, right.
There's nothing unique here.
That's correct.
No, I
So
agree.
if we have made substantial progress, whatever that looks like, and
Right.
by the end of the 5-year period, we are fully operating, street sweeping, back truck, our projects are well advanced or finished, you know, I don't, to me, that's a timeline that would work from a permit compliance perspective. I don't know if someone would come in and say, right now, why don't you have a street sweeper working? Where's your projects? Why haven't you got more done than you have done in year 2? I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that. You know, what would be unique about West Goshen in that situation?
Just if we got picked for
We got
what,
picked.
that's all. Honestly.
Well, on your size, I mean, I think being a larger municipality, you're more inclined to get picked.
I have a sort of technical question. So as far as street sweeping is concerned, and then as far as this back truck and cleaning out the inlets, I know that we need to meet these requirements. Do they have different weights when meeting, like, is it more important that we sweep our streets than clean our inlets, for example? Or are they considered by the EPA to be equal?
I think they're pretty much equal. You need to do both.
Because what's on your street ends up in the.
Yeah, so the more frequent we can sweep the streets, the cleaner we keep them.
I mean, I know that we need to do this, and we need to do this within the time frame. I think the question is cost and when do we buy the equipment?
And it's just, it's one of those things that we keep pushing stuff off, and then you
Right, but
get,
if we buy the street sweeper this year, and then we don't get another one, we push the second one off, it's not like we're not getting a second one, we're just
right,
getting
and
balance.
we'll have one running next year.
Yeah.
So I think that it would be a good idea to get that one out and see how it goes, and then discuss our stormwater crew and sort that out, and then bring the second street sweeper in and have the full thing running by the time that our permit needs to be.
I think it could be reasonable to get the first sweeper, get that running with the back truck so we can clean the inlets, and then do the second street
That's-
sweeper after
Yeah.
That's
that.
what my question was gonna be for you, Rick, so that's what I was gonna, that's what I was thinking, so you think that that would be,
I think that's viable.
That's a good plan, and it shows that, we have a plan and we're moving
Yeah,
forward.
once we
And we're
have one
spending
truck, that's
substantial money.
one
Sweeper.
I feel like getting that inlet cleaner back truck would be really super helpful, so yeah, I agree with that.
So maybe the guidance then, Dave, is keep the back truck in as a 22 purchase, and then move the second street sweeper into 23.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's good. I mean, that's, that's what we're trying to address, is how things have got piled up.
Yeah.
Within the context of what this equipment is about, what we're trying to do is a way to phase the spend a little better. So.
I agree, okay.
Is the jet unit okay for 23 then too?
The jet unit is reaching the end of its life.
So how many years of service has that got on it? And, I mean, I know it's on standby, I know it's there to use whenever we need it, I know it's a tough duty, but is it really, has it got several years ahead of it with good maintenance, or is it really on its last leg?
It's one of those things, it's not on its last leg, but you don't want it to get to that point. That unit is out continually cleaning lines day in, day out. It's cleaning lines along with the camera truck, it's inspecting center. So those units are continuing to run. But we're not like a normal sewer contractor. We have emergency content behind
So
us.
is it 10 years old at the moment?
It is,
It's nice. It's on the sewer wall.
All right,
There it is.
2009.
235.
But the other thing to keep in mind,
that's a 225.
when we can't just go down and buy that truck.
No.
That truck is custom built, chassis. It's a year, 18 months out on a good time. Right now, we could be 2 years out on the trucks that we're purchasing this year.
So if the direction was 1 a year, back, street sweeper, jet, is that the sequence you would do them in, or would you want the jet truck before the second sweeper?
I'd want to look at the jet truck this time next year.
And again, the jet truck is paid for by the sewer budget. It's not the general fund, so it's not our capital reserve.
Okay.
That's specifically in the sewer operating.
But it's still a cap, it's not the authority, it's the town, we're buying it here out of our
But it's operating.
sewer.
It's operating fund, it's not capital reserve.
Okay.
General fund capital reserve.
Why is that?
We don't commingle the funds between sewer fund and general fund. And that's
So
a
why
sewer
is
operating
it, so if we're buying something from parks, we transfer from parks to the capital and buy it. So if we're
Because
buying
we-
something for sewer, why don't we transfer from sewer to the capital and buy it?
Because the capital fund is general fund. Sewer fund is completely separate for capital expenses and
Okay.
for operating expenses. We keep those segregated.
But the bottom line is, there's still a number that shows up here. isn't
It does. It's still in your 10-year plan.
Cost of the township.
Yeah, you still have to spend the money, but it's out of sewer instead of general.
It's just a different bucket.
So that might be doable then?
It's the same basic
It
question.
seems like it'd be purchased.
It's like you put it on your wall, you put it on your husband's wall, it's
Yeah,
the
so I
same
think
problem.
it's,
Yeah.
like 235. Okay,
So David,
Yeah.
if that was the direction, can you live with that, or is that still a problem for you? You'd rather buy the second street sweeper and the jet truck in the same year? 23.
I think we could plan to space them out, but I really want to look at that truck this time next year. I got another 2 3,000.
See how it's.
So that's a fair assessment. We could, let's put it, it's in 23 now, we'll look at it next year and say, can we live one more year with it, just by the second sweep. Is that okay, the rest of the board is a plan?
That sounds good? Yeah.
Go ahead, Doug.
Can a street sweeper act as a back truck also?
No. They make an attachment, you'll see some for the hose. They are not,
It's a light duty, super light duty thing.
it's basically, what that hose hanging on the back of the sweeper is for, is picking litter off the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a layer duty back, where a back truck is a.
A back truck will eat bricks, rocks, stones. You put that through a street sweeper, we're gonna be talking about replacing a street sweeper awful early.
Does a back truck have a gas turbine engine
Back truck has a diesel engine.
in it? Diesel.
It has its own separate diesel powered engine. The other nice thing to the back truck, and we've done it, Sean's aware, we've done it with sewer a lot. So if we need to dig around infrastructure, we can actually hydro excavate, they call it. So you use pressure washer, high pressure washer right on the truck, and you can vacuum excavate. So we can get around communication lines, power lines. It's a lot safer.
So you can do that with the back truck.
We will get that option on the back truck.
So is the maintenance on this back truck kind of
Huge.
Huge.
Between
Same
two
as the
sweepers
sweeper.
and the back truck,
crazy maintenance?
you're gonna tie up one mechanic.
Oh, yeah. Full time.
And that's part of the other reason for running the street crew, the storm crew, Tuesday, Friday. On Mondays, if there's heavy maintenance and you need to put one of those vehicles down, the mechanics that are in on Monday can work on that truck. But they also, that crew really should have its own mechanic, and vice versa. If he's in on Friday, he's extending our service for PD cars, but he's also doing the same for the streets equipment. You know, the paver that goes out Monday to Thursday, on a Friday, he can tear it down if we need to do major service to it. So it makes us a lot more flexible.
Okay.
When the back trucks come, do they have to pull the grading up in order to be able to get down into the,
Yeah, they're self-sufficient with
so
training.
there's going to be a fair amount of maintenance involved with that as well?
Yeah.
So a lot of these have never been pulled, probably for years.
Yeah, you have two down the street from you that
Yeah. and we
one's
tear it
been
down.
rebuilt and the second one's getting rebuilt. You know, when we go to pull those grades, we're gonna be doing a lot of frame repairs.
Yeah.
And so all the debris, where is it all disposed of?
It'll come back here to a dumpster. We actually have it in the new trash bid. We have dumpsters, 30-yard cans, I think, back here so we can dump into them, and they're separately hauled, weighed, so we have them for the report and paid for that way.
And all that goes into our MS4 annual permit report that Rick does every year.
It's a proof that we're doing all this.
Yes, it's the data that we're going to use to prove that we're doing something, essentially. Yeah.
Let me bring up another one. I mean, how many 39,000 weight dump trucks do you have?
9.
How many?
We have 9, one coming this year.
It looks like there's one up for consideration for this year. That would be, according to the timeline here, at the end of its 10-year lifespan. Could that possibly be moved into the following year? The reason why I ask is because we're looking at $1.2+ million for streets for this year as compared to the next year, 2023, of an estimate about $300,000. We can kind of spread that out a little bit. I think that would be helpful as far as this year's budget would go. Can we wait another year on that dump truck?
Well, when you do that, you actually have 11 large trucks like that in the fleet. So there's always one coming due. Those trucks, they're 3,000 to 5,000 hours on the engines. They don't have a lot of miles on them, but those things get abused. And none of my drivers are abusing it by right.
Well, I understand there's a timeline.
You're pushing an 11-foot snow plow with heavy wet snow on it, and you've all picked snow out of your driveways. So imagine that 11-foot wide. One of my trucks, that driver will drive the equivalent from here to the shore and back in a shift. You're also, at 39,000 pounds, you're toting 10 tons of salt the whole time they're out there doing it. trucks are well used, and the main problem with those trucks is the corrosion. The undersides of those trucks, they look pretty shiny on the outside, and the guys do a great job maintaining them. It's 2 days of cleaning after an event. The corrosion on those trucks, the hose lines, the fittings, the trucks have a big vibrator on them for the summertime for hauling blacktop. It hangs underneath. We've actually seen those rot off and fall off during operations.
You don't have to convince me that there's a timeline to these vehicles. I understand that. But I'm asking, these things, for this particular purchase for truck number 120, could be pushed back into 2023?
We can push anything. That particular truck
I'm
right
saying,
now,
is this truck to the point now where it's on its last legs? It's costing more to maintain it than to get another one?
no, but we also don't want to get to that point.
Understood.
We kind of have a good spot where we get rid of them. We're not changing the particulate filters. Most of our trucks are the newer Tier 3 and Tier 4 engines, so they've got the particulate filters. You're $1,500, $2,000 to clean. That particular truck 120, I'm familiar with. I've spent a lot of time in that thing in the overrides. That bed is in bad shape. It's been painted and had some rust work done to it, but the floor of that bed is getting in rough shape. If we have to look to keep it another year, we're probably going to be doing some patchwork and all that to it. So, I mean, we can do anything. It's just a matter of, we keep pushing stuff, and over the years, we just keep pushing,
Sure.
and eventually,
I understand. You just keep on kicking the can down the road.
yeah.
But can we kick it down to for at least one block this year?
I think, Dave, let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
We've moved out the street sweeper. We talked about the jet truck needs, potentially moving the year. Just look at it to see if you can get the spike of next year's street purchases smoothed out between 22 and 23.
Yeah, Mark and I have actually talked, and a lot of the smaller stuff, that we can push. That's not a problem. The excavator, we've already pushed it a number of years. That one's 3 or 4 years overdue. We've started running into issues with it, with hydraulic lines and whatnot. It's the small stuff now. That machine, we've had 2 force main breaks this year. That machine in the middle of the night goes out. Even though we bring a contractor in, that machine is on site, usually working alongside them. If we get a heavy straight line wind storms or something like that in the summertime, that machine's loaded, sitting on the trailer, ready to go. North New Street, we picked 3, 4 trees because you need that machine with the thumb. It's a lot safer for the guys. They can pick it up, move it, cut it, stockpile it. Again, our stuff isn't normal contractor stuff. We don't necessarily have the leisure that, if that excavator goes down, I can call Knox and get one, in an hour. Because 9 times out of 10, when we need it, it's the middle of the night, it's a Sunday. That's what makes our stuff a little odder than a normal contractor.
Well, we've had the request to kind of look at what you could do, whether it's the small stuff or one truck into 23 and get the spike of next year kind of
I hear you.
out over 2 years. So I did also ask the chief about police department. He did remind us about the second phase of the what's it called, the case cracker, the schedule. And also, right now in the schedule, these there were 6 vehicles shown potentially up for replacement next year. He said there were only 4, which one was a kind of an admin car, and there were 3 either interceptors or SUVs or whatever. So that should give it a little bit of a reduction from what was shown, at least in this schedule. So are there any other questions from the board relative to guidance to, staff in general, not just Dave or anyone else? And we are going to see, even with the kind of changes we've talked about today, we're going to see north of $1 million, we're looking at more like, close to probably $1.5 million as a total equipment budget. Yeah.
We also, we have a meeting tomorrow, community card, basketball courts, push them. They
So
need-
this is equipment we've been looking at.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is also talk about what priority projects we have. We can bring that
Okay.
angle in there. So is there any other questions on the equipment? So we're not looking surprised when staff bring $1.5 million budget for 22 for capital equipment purchases with some substantial individual items being requested.
I have a couple of questions you want to bring up. For parks, talking about that first of all, there's there's 4 mowers looking to replace. They're only a couple years old. 72-inch riding mowers. 4 of them. They were purchased back in 2019. Time to get them replaced already, $10,000 a pop. Something to take a look at. I mean, they only have a 2-year life expectancy? Come on. That's something to get, why are they asking for that?
That's the schedule they've always been on.
Pardon?
That's the schedule they've always been on.
Is it a 3-year schedule? That's what it looks like. I mean, there are 19 purchases replacing 22. Is that the schedule?
Well, it says it's a 5-year life expectancy, but again, I don't quite know, the numbers don't add up. If they were purchased in 2019, and we're not 5 years down the road yet from that. So that's one question I have for there.
So just hang on a second, John. So Casey, can you give Doreen a heads up on that one? Just a challenge on the mowers, the big mowers, the $13,000, $10,000 mowers. Yeah, maybe it's an opportunity to stagger this a little bit, because there's like 3 or 4 of them all the same year.
Yeah, I think there's 4 1 year and 2 or 3 the following.
There's nothing in the, well, maybe 1 in the 3. Okay, go ahead, John, sorry.
And, well, I think you made a mention earlier that the police vehicles are talking about 6 vehicles for this year.
The chief says only 4.
Only 4?
Yeah. We would want the chief to say whether he's, the hybrids are successful and that we can continue with that strategy.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't want to try to slow it down. On the other hand, we're trying to, actually, would love to be able to really accelerate this when we start going to completed electric vehicles.
I did ask him about that, and as far as he's aware, Ford has still not announced a release date for their police.
So they're still working on it.
They're still working on it.
We have this conversation a year from now,
Yeah.
it might be different.
For 23,
I
though.
would think it would be too. So that might be a reason to delay purchasing of vehicles for that reason, because the technology is advancing so quickly. So we might be talking about, instead of buying a hybrid vehicle, we'd be talking about an all-electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So that would be a reason to consider delaying the purchase of some of these vehicles. But I count 6 here, quite frankly.
There is 6, but like I said, I just checked in with him, it's only 4. Remember, this was done a year ago. This was actually approved by the city. But prepped in October, so what's changed, I don't know. I didn't ask him specifically. He just said it was only 4, not 6.
So I'm not familiar with which of the 6, 2 of those are being removed. But anyway, $40,000 a pop, that's something to take a look at. I know Chief Carroll's not here, so I don't want to go too much further into it. The only other question I have is the life expectancy according to the schedule. In some instances, it's 60 months, in others, it's 84. Difference between 5 and 7 years. And I'm just curious as to who comes up with that life expectancy for these different items.
For the police vehicles?
Yeah.
Well, typically the interceptors, which are on patrol, not 24/7, but heavy duty, those are on a 5-year schedule, and the detectives' vehicles, those are on a longer schedule. typically.
Well, it's not necessarily life expectancy. We don't get rid of, well, the patrol cars as well. But a lot of the stuff goes looking at cost of ownership. We get rid of my Explorer. It's a $30,000 car on CoStars.
Yeah.
But once we get the trade value and all that for it, we spent $13,000 for that car. although the budget shows 30. So there's a fine line where we're still getting a good return on that vehicle, and we're not outlaying, if we run that thing into the ground, then it's gonna cost you $30,000 for the new one. So there's a fine line as to when we get rid of stuff.
I mean, that information is missing when we look at
Yeah.
capital budget. We don't see the
Because
last year or two, we budgeted this, the trade-ins were this, the net was that.
It's-
It would really, I suggest we do it for this year because it really helps.
It's
this
government
conversation.
accounting, though, we've always been told we can't do that. I mean, we can discuss it.
We don't have to account for it that way.
Yeah.
We'll approve a budget with a
We can-
number that's for the brand new vehicle, but what we should see is what has been the history
Yeah.
of trading value versus approved capital purchases for the last 2 years. So if you don't mind, Casey, you could ask finance to pull those numbers
And
together.
now that are,
Because that's an important part of the consideration.
Yeah,
And those businesses, they have a 5-year timeline on vehicles and throw them off.
right.
And I know we're government, but nevertheless, it's a 5-year timeline. But I'm just curious as to which vehicles are being assigned a 5-year timeline and others are a 7-year timeline.
Okay,
I
so
think we should-
are there any other questions? Is that it, John? Was there any other questions
No, I-
on the equipment?
That's all for now.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It was good we had a conversation and got these up now so we can have a smooth process of October, November. Sorry, Doug.
As far as equipment, Dave, do we still have the truck washer from 2012?
We have a number of pressure washers.
Do we have an actual truck washer?
No,
No, it's
we've never had an actual pressure washer.
No.
We have an undercarriage wash, we have some pressure washers.
It's a
Parks-
manual.
Parks has one, sewer has one, and the streets has one.
We don't have an automatic washer.
No, we've never had, we've never had.
Turnpike does.
Okay, so the undercarriage washer helps extend the life of the trucks?
Oh, yeah.
That's part of that 2-day cycle of cleanup after.
If our guys go out for a 2-hour quick hit with 150 tons of salt, it's 2 days to get the fleet clean. And we actually have a special chemical that we purchase. It's a deionizer. So it actually flips the ions of the salt. Because the guys would spend hours trying to clean the truck.
So it makes the salt not corrosive anymore?
No, it makes the salt not stick to the truck.
Oh.
So that, the guys would spend hours cleaning the truck. They'd take it, park it in the garage. I'd walk through the garage, I'd see white streaks down it. And, I might motivate the driver a little bit, clean it a little better. And you can't. This deionizer actually takes all that away. So once they clean the truck, it's in a spray bottle, and they clean it, and you can't find a trace of salt on that truck. But we can do that on the outside. We can't get up underneath. We can't add it to the undercarriage funnel. It's a very expensive product, and we use very little on the outside.
So is it, in your opinion, is there something that we could buy that will?
If there was, we would have had it. And actually, we bought an undercarriage washer. We were at a conference, saw it. It's a great idea. It was pretty good, but it wasn't that great. Our mechanics actually fabbed an undercarriage washer up that is fantastic. But we still, the corrosion, you guys are welcome, let me know. I'll put a truck in the air and you can walk underneath it. The corrosion underneath those trucks after a couple thousand tons of salt. I mean, you know what it does to your personal cars. Those trucks live in that stuff.
Okay. So let's move on to capital projects and any board directional guidance we can provide as you prepare the budget. So I'd just like to start by asking about stormwater for 22. Like this year we've had 2 or 3 projects, right? Ravens Lane, we've got Sunset Hollow, we've got Pine Valley. Is there anything on there that says that you've got that is hanging on by the skin of its teeth that needs to be a project for 22?
We actually have Carol surveying a project around the corner from John. We made an emergency temporary repair in it a couple weeks ago. The entire system was shot. So they're looking at that for repair, a replacement.
Where's that?
Sylvan, Glen, that whole lower area.
Okay, that's the, I think the 12-inch line? that feeds
Yeah,
into the-
it's a much smaller line. We're also looking to potentially line, we have a smaller 18 or 24-inch line, I forget off the top of my head. It crosses Legion Drive, right where Legion Drive is their only access in and out.
I was going to ask about that. Is there anything like Knollwood with those big,
Legion's
similar to that?
Legion's on the list,
Okay.
and we've had a couple issues further in the neighborhood that we've handled ourselves. We'd like to get that one either lined or replaced. Given the depth of it, we'd like to line it. And I think we're early enough to get it in line.
It's a CMP line.
Yeah.
So that's the key, getting early enough so you can line it rather than having to dig
Yeah,
up.
we're so far behind with the steel.
Well, that's where the study's gonna come in, you know, with the Army Corps of Engineer, with their data and all that.
So are we going to have enough results from the study to add to the things you've already described by the time the budget comes around, or are we going to be next year before we know what the other priorities are for stormwater?
Yeah, I think so.
We are not going to know this year.
And, we have another one we're actually scheduled to look at tomorrow to get a budget number on. We have a metal pipe, it's not even CMP. It's a homemade thing. It's on Snyder Avenue, right at Dewey Pyle's entrance. It's, you know, we had a discussion today, you know, Westchester's looking at a rather large distribution center going at the old Y. So we'd rather, this pipe has been on the radar, but given the construction at the Y and 700 delivery trucks and almost 100 tractor trailers a day are going to be going over this, we'd like to get it replaced before that project goes in.
So I'm hearing there's at least 4 projects you've got slated for stormwater for 22's budget.
Yeah.
Could you frame me a number?
You're not dealing with the same as what we've been dealing with. You're dealing with smaller pipe. The stuff off of Sylvan is not as deep.
$250,000 for all 4?
I think that's aggressive.
Aggressive and too much?
No, too much.
Until asked. So $500,000 for all 4?
Yeah, the scary one's going to be the Balmer pipe.
Yeah.
Because that pipe is really undersized to start with. There's no head wall, no end wall.
And no cover.
And no cover.
Right, exactly.
So we've got some priority projects for stormwater. You guys are working on it. No issues. Definite reasons why I want to get them done next year and not be waiting. Is there anything else in terms of big projects that are out there? Stormwater, compliance?
We still have MS4 projects we have to do too.
And where are we with spend for those? What we should 22?
We haven't done anything because what we're doing so far are grant projects.
Yeah.
So, but we need to get some of the other projects in design.
To meet the 5
Soon.
years.
Is it design money only next year, Rick? Are you going to get into construction on something as well beyond the grant project?
I would say at this point, it's probably going to be design. I mean, we might be able to
Yeah. And
get
then
in at the end
23,
of the year, but I think it's going to be 23 construction. But there, you know, since that's the case, we're probably going to have to put at least 3 projects in design. Because if we don't keep the design going, the construction's going to lag, and then we're not going to do
Are these the retention basins? Are these like the retention basin projects?
Detention basin retrofits, stream bank restoration, yeah.
We've got the issue of Barker Park between the work that we're going to have done at the West Fanway Pump Station and the general issue in that whole area, stream bank erosion. So would that be has that been on your radar as a project, or is that not?
No, that's not going to count.
Yeah, it's not going to count.
We're going to have to do
That's
it, but it's
nice.
not going to count for MS4, and the reason is they will not accept hard armoring.
Right.
There's no way to do that without
he's
hard
not gonna do
armoring.
that. That would-
If we tried semi-hard armoring before, and it's gone. So there's no way you can do anything but totally hard armor application there. And
Is
we
it,
will not do
would we
anything.
save money by doing the design for that in parallel with the design for the projects we will get credit for?
I don't think there's any economy of scale there.
Yeah.
It's a different project.
Yeah, I received 3 proposals today after beating up HRG. the West Town Way street bank, whatever you want to call it, restoration. Their proposal was $45,000 to design that road, so.
For the design.
Yeah, just for the designs.
About right.
Yeah.
I mean, these projects, you're gonna pay 45,
Yeah.
50, 60, 70,000 to
It
design,
includes the
and then
permitting
you've
and
got,
everything
you know,
else.
whatever it is, 200,000 or 300,000 for some of these
Right.
projects.
Yeah.
And the other thing you gotta keep in mind too, especially with stream bank restoration, you're totally at DEP's mercy
Yep.
on that. And the last time we did that, West Town Way Station, they ran us through the ringer.
2 years, 3 or 4 years to get the permit.
There's,
Yeah, it took almost 4 years to get a permit.
yeah.
It's ridiculous.
And the actual project took a few days to get done. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So are we
Yeah, but
planning-
it was a project.
It failed.
A different
Yeah,
project.
it failed
So we'd
ultimately.
be better off
Yeah.
with a different project.
Are we planning to using the American Rescue Funds for a lot of, so?
That is the
No,
board's.
but this counts towards stormwater, right? And you
Yeah.
can use it for stormwater improvements
Absolutely.
or whatever, but is there a timeline
Any
also that
infrastructure.
you need to spend it by?
Yeah, the end of 2025.
2024
Or, I'm sorry,
years?
I think it's the end of 25. We have to have contracts in place by the end of 24 for all the projects.
But
Or
construction
completed
can extend.
to December 31st, 25.
So Rick, let me ask you a question on that. So how many projects do you want to pursue that you have the capability to manage between yourself and other resources? And
There are no other resources.
Little prints.
I mean, I'm talking about, look, we've got whatever it is, $2 million we could spend on stormwater projects. We've got the ones you talked about, 3 or 4 critical ones you want to get done. We've got MS4 compliance projects. We've got Park that is, you know, it's got a little timeline. So how many of those can we take on next year and get going? You know, we've got funds for a couple $1 million behind it.
As far as MS4 projects, I think we need to get 3 in design next year, at least.
And you would recommend not starting Barker Park next year?
No, I didn't say that. I said that's MS4 projects.
Yeah.
When you say Barker Park, are you referring to the stream bank restoration? or
Well, there's 2 pieces there. One is the West Town Way pump station is going to disturb that piece of the park down there. There's going to be some follow-up needed to sort that out. But in general, I'm talking about the full street bank restoration.
That's going to need to be done within the next year or two, or we're going to have some major problems.
So between the MS4 compliance projects, Barker Parks, these other priority projects, not even thinking about what might come out of the review of the Army Corps data, is $2 million enough to get on with design and construction and feel that we've got those covered at least?
I think so.
Would it be cutting it close?
Oh, yeah, we're not going to know until the design's
I
done.
mean, the good news is, if we didn't have this $2 million, we'd be looking at our regular capital
Yeah,
project spend.
that's true.
Right, but I'm saying, you don't think we're gonna either run so much over that estimate that we'd have a problem by, greenlighting all these projects, or that we've come in so much under that we can potentially add more to that?
Well, once the design is authorized by the board, we'll get a good cost estimate from the
Yeah.
engineer.
Okay.
Yeah,
And then
right now,
you
we're kind of
authorize, then we go to
seat
to
of pants.
bid.
Okay.
We don't do it before.
The other, for a little economy of scale, we could look at doing the Barker Park stream bank project, to lump that in maybe with the West Town Lake Station, to keep it separate.
Yeah, so East Goshen doesn't have ours.
So the town, West Goshen pays for that stream bank,
Mhm.
but we're already gonna have a contractor there. It's gonna be a nightmare to try to coordinate around the sewer plant's contractor working at the station.
I thought I heard Josh say you really don't want the general contractor for that pump station doing stream bank restoration, well, that's not necessarily going to be the right contractor to
Right.
use.
Yeah, and not without a design.
Yeah, but
And that was
we
the
still need to
proposal I
design
got
a
today.
permit.
Yeah. So that's not going to coordinate with the West Town Way pump
So
station.
we're kind of down the road a little bit here.
Yeah.
So that the guidance I'm hearing, and that's again, please chime in if you see it differently, is we're looking to progress these priority stormwater projects, both issues that you know about related to CMP across the township, priority there, get on with the design for our 3 compliance projects that you believe 22 should be doing, and also Barker Park. And we don't know how that all will come out in terms of total cost, et cetera, and timings, but we've got at least the good fortune of the $2 million we're gonna get. So,
Yeah.
are you good?
That's what I was gonna say, what's the total number? Let's get to the bottom line.
Okay. Is that, any other board comments on it? Feel comfortable that we need to be pushing this along as fast as possible?
Well, I'd just like to mention 3 projects, the West Town Way, Market Park, what's the third one? For the Amherst Forum?
None of those are MS4, John.
No, those are just strictly.
We need to have this laid out here so we understand exactly what we're talking about.
So why don't we do this? So as a follow from this, to kind of keep the board educated ahead of the actual dollar numbers request for the budget, could you pull a long page together on what we've just described in terms of these are the projects we'll be designing in 22, these are the ones we're going to be designing and doing because they're priorities, and adding the Barker Park and Streambank restoration as well, just so we have a full view of all the projects that we're going to start designing and doing.
Well, we're actually in progress of getting budget numbers together. Like I said, Carol already started a survey on, so we had some of it from the previous project. We're actually meeting tomorrow to talk about one other, the Bowman job. And I was planning on letting them know about these driving.
So Ball was one that's raised its significance prioritization because of the activities that are going to be.
Yeah, it was on the radar, but given the construction that's coming down there.
Are you going to be late?
No.
This is where they're going to be with their schedule to do the
No.
project.
They'll probably be under construction
Yeah.
at some point next year, but we don't have 700 little vans to
But
take.
remember that that's a Superfund site, so I don't know if that's accurate.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
they're-
remediation and all kind of.
Yeah, they're very aggressive with their timeframe. but
Still, that's going to delay it.
Like, well,
I mean,
so
They
what
intend,
package is that?
they intend to be operational by fall of '23 with that building.
Is there any way we can have a voice into the approval of their project to have this covered as part of the requirements of infrastructure to permit this?
That was going to be my request for an executive session.
If it's outside of the territory of the borough, I'm not sure you can do that.
Yeah, it's an offsite improvement.
You can't do that. The borough couldn't impose that.
No.
When we
You're
need an
not authorized by
overlay.
law.
Yeah.
We need an overlay over Westchester.
Another overlay.
No.
So we have a full audience of people coming and asking all our questions.
Yeah, 'cause-
Well, even if the answer's no, maybe at least we can publicly ask for it.
Yep.
And
At least I know the
ask for good name, this is something you're doing, it impacts the residents of West Goshen in terms of the cost we're having to expend. Even if it would have been something we needed to ultimately have done. But it's going to accelerate because of what you're doing, and we would ask you to consider paying for it.
I can answer right now.
It's no, of course, but, yeah, of course.
We're gonna ask if they're gonna.
But at least someone will say, did you ask? And we will have said, yeah, and the answer was no.
That's true, get on the record with staff and say.
Ask Amazon,
Yeah, exactly.
shame them into it, because they shame them.
It's actually
It's
like.
not able to
to
pay
pay for
they'll
the
lease the
situation.
property. They'll lease the property.
Oh.
Yeah, they don't buy it.
Well, all the good fortune that comes from whatever it is, jobs and traffic in Westchester, we want to have something. Other projects. We have a splash pad idea for the community park.
Yep.
We have a great suggestion that we need to look at the bathroom situation there and improve it. And
I could not-
Dave, you've got to add to the overall scope of what we might want to do there because of deterioration.
While we're doing bathroom improvements to the amphitheater, the stage needs some work.
Yeah.
We recently painted it, but the stage deck itself needs some work.
Yeah, it's
Scratching. Yeah.
But it's 26 years old, it's time for.
The basketball court needs to be replaced, full-on replacement. It's beyond an overlay. I think they overlaid it a few years ago.
It's probably 5.
Yeah, it didn't
It's all-
last.
it's all crap.
The base is too far gone.
Yeah.
You can't go in and just kind of paint it and make it look pretty. The tennis courts the surfaces are still in pretty good shape, but they need some drainage up there. Given current weather and all the heavy rains we get,
or 7-inch rings.
It was a bad design when that park was put in, and we need to improve it to try to save them, to get some more life out of the surface that we have on there. I think we can, and depending on the splash pad location, we should do the same at the lower end of the soccer field. If we're going to do the project at the tennis courts, it's along the same lines there. So,
Is this something we can get a, call it a laundry list of items with individual costs so we can see how it adds up and decide which ones we support and don't support? Because I just looked at the restricted parks capital account for last month, which was the end of June, and we had 866,000 in there, plus new accumulation is going to come from Woodland. So we've got some money, it's sitting there, we've got some good uses to provide refurbished amenities for residents and others in the area. I think it's, from my perspective, something we should be doing. Not having it in the bank isn't benefiting anyone. No.
Is that second wave of money that's coming from the Woodlands like significant amount, or?
Once the park is dedicated, we will get just under $1 million cash, 960, 980, something like that. It's in the, I don't remember the commissioners, but it's just under $1 million cash. Outside of the $2,500 per house fee in lieu of open space that we get per home. So.
And that goes directly into the general fund, right?
No, that's parks restricted
Okay,
money.
specified just for.
Yeah, those are developer fees and funds that we keep restricted and segregated by law.
And all of those mowers that we were just looking at, they're not paid for?
They're all paid for out of that money on a yearly basis. Yeah, we started that 5, 6 years ago.
So all those ones that Doreen was requesting would come from?
They're reimbursed out of parks restricted.
Okay.
And we've been doing that for about 5 years, because previous to that, we had kind of a slowdown in development, so we didn't have a lot of money in that account. But we're flush with cash now because of Woodlands and.
But you also, there was a change in the law, you didn't used to be able to use the money for maintenance, now you can.
Right. So historically, it was only for acquisition of land, but now we can use it for anything that has to do with park maintenance, whether it's anything from mulch to mowers.
So this project's going to take this list we just talked about, will take a chunk out of this, but it basically is going to be replenished, in another year or so when we get this park over.
And also indicate on this list whether they can be done by in-house staff or they have to be put out to bid, subcontract.
and most of the park improvements are going to be put out to bid.
Okay, with the, I presume there's going to be an economy of scale by doing all the things you talked about in one project, or is it really, well, the person redoing the basketball course is going to be totally different than someone putting in a splash pad?
No, well, splash pad may be its own separate animal, and that's all co-stars, install everything. But we got to take a look at it, because drainage at the tennis courts, drainage at the splash pad area, and basketballs, that's a general contractor. They can also do all the site work and for the bathroom extension.
Yeah.
So I kind of think economy of scale would do that as one project.
All of
And-
those together?
Yeah. Well, whatever
Master plan.
whatever we ultimately decide. Because the other reason is, and I had a talk with the Park and Rec today, this much work down there next year, we're probably going to put the park program on hold.
Yeah, for community park, absolutely.
So, that's something to look at too. Do we get in there, close it for 1 year, get in, do it, we get out, and then, everything goes back to normal the following year? Or do we piecemeal it where we're affecting that program for a couple of years?
But you guys will work through those.
Yeah.
So
So a couple other things on the park. So one is the sign at the community park.
Yep, that's been a long-standing.
Again, his question is this, like you said, the idea of having $866,000 sitting there versus improving the overall appearance, use, amenities available. So the sign, is it time to do it as part of this project?
This is
The sign is
The
the
signs, yeah, the signs.
Leaving?
Talking about the one on the corner of,
Yep,
Yeah.
right.
Go with it.
Yeah, it's-
Yep.
Go ahead,
It's-
take the letters.
yeah.
So maybe this is time now to make part of the work. And then up at Lambert Park, the beam idea. of
Yes.
the
Oh, yeah, the-
Standalone, freestanding
Do you remember what
charging
price that
station.
one
60 to 80,000, depending on the customization.
Right.
Oh, we get one for,
Just one up there, because we can charge.
Well, we'd like to look at that unit. I'd like to spec that as a test case in case we want to do something here.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the $80,000 unit.
okay.
And we know it's going to be limited to some degree. I know that you can charge up to 6, but the idea, if you've not had
Well,
sunlight for a couple of days, you're not going to have that much juice in the battery up there. But it's going to have something, and that's
Yes.
what we want.
Right.
So I would say we should again put that as part of something we would fund out of the restricted parks account, the 22.
Yeah, and that would be considered a part of improvements.
Yeah. Other projects from the board,
You mean just for parks or?
just in general, absolutely.
I mean, I feel like, well, so I reached out to the sustainability committee, I haven't heard back from them really yet, but I'm sure there's so many projects you could come up with. You know, like water, my husband mentioned this the other day, like water refill stations, you know, how they're
Yep.
really, there's lots of runners around the parks, and if they're a place to fill the water ball,
Yep.
there's tons of stuff. And the bench program that we have been talking about, they did something.
Yeah.
Sean, the other thing is, you guys are talking about the electric police cars. We have no facilities here for charging.
I'm just going to bring that up.
And, to hold off a police car to buy a potential electric one for a year or two, we're a few years out before we can even look at that here.
Yeah.
We really need to do the study here to see what we need to do.
Yeah.
But we look at the capital.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha.
We need to do the study, which would be part of the general fund,
Yep.
professional services, budget item, so definitely I could.
But the beam is movable.
The beam is
Would that-
movable,
like,
but
would that be a violation or something to move, like buy it with restricted parks and then move it
yeah.
somewhere?
It's got to be for out of park use. We do not want to be in violation of the law.
Yeah, okay.
but you can always buy another one if you felt that was the way
Yes.
to go. But
Houses.
I don't know if it's reliable enough for the police to use, unless you were able to buy it so you could top it up from you could top the battery up from
Yep.
the mains.
Yeah.
Or somehow rig it with a generator, if we
Yeah,
need
to
to
charge batteries.
Or it's down the road anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But first thing to do is look at a study around, get that done in the first 4 months of next year.
Okay.
Are there any other capital project ideas of a scale that we need to budget for that we haven't discussed? Doug, do you have anything? That's a great idea on the bathroom. I appreciate you providing that. Okay. Move on to the next agenda item. Discussion and possible approval of various consents to enter for the Pine Valley Circle Stormwater Project and one easement for the Sunset Hollow Project. Kristen. Thank
This
you.
is the stormwater project, and we've met with your staff, and they asked us, I guess you guys had a meeting out of the property, and it was well received.
Absolutely.
It's in front of these people's property, but they're saving them, a problem on their property, and the agreement was to allow, we're also going to be repaving the driveways. So we wanted to make sure we had the authority to go onto the private property to do this work. One thing that I'm sitting here looking at, the plans that from Carol are dated 2013, is that accurate, or is that a typo?
That must be a thing.
Yeah, because the date, and that's a reference in the TCE as, it says dated 12/2/2013. So,
They just.
We just started.
okay, yeah, so I wonder if that's 2019. We can cross that out.
Well, if it's just
These
been done,
documents do
Chris,
not
but-
get recorded.
If it's just been done, it'd be not 2019, it was 2020.
Well, I don't know, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we just started.
Yeah, that was 2020.
Okay, well, we need to get that corrected on the plans, but, these are not recorded documents because they're not, it's a once and done sort of project, and it's not something that goes in a chain, we don't want them in a chain of titles, we don't need it to be recorded. It's basically just giving us the authority to go onto their land to complete the work that we need to do to complete this project.
Any questions from the board, Kristen or Casey or staff, about the consent to enter? Yeah, we need a motion to approve these for the the non-cooperative.
I just have a couple of questions. Do we have to get these from the township, from all of the residents who were affected by the recent project down with the Ravens Lane stormwater?
We got
did
easements
start-
there.
yes,
Because
we have
a
construction.
permanent pipe would be located within their land, and we were extending the width of the easement.
Right.
So that was something that does have to be recorded in change title, we did do that, yes.
So that was an easement agreement.
That's an easement agreement, that's something more
Now,
permanent.
this is something separate, a consent to enter.
This is just
agreement?
a less formal document, it lets us go in for a limited scope of a project.
Because we already
Otherwise,
have,
we'd be
we already have
trespassing.
easements. There is already an existing easement. This is just another step, so they know exactly what to
No,
expect.
I understand. My question is, did the township have to get these consent to enter agreements?
No, because the easement agreement for Raven Lane included the authorization to go in and do the work and use the property and permanently maintain whatever was being
That's
made.
what I'm trying to understand. So the easement agreements that are in place now with those folks on Pine Valley does not include the consent to enter?
If there isn't a recorded easement agreement, it's on a land development plan. So there's no specifics to the easement, it's just on a recorded land development plan. Because back in the 70s or whenever the plan was approved, they weren't as formal as we are now, with delineating the boundaries of an easement, calling out what the easement is for.
I'm just trying to understand why you felt it was necessary to do this extra step for Pine Valley.
It's not an extra step, it's, I want to make sure that nobody goes in, and when our contractor goes and does the work, I want to make sure that the private property owner says, yeah, that's fine, go ahead, you can do it. And it was more of a notification to them to say, hey, this easement exists, hey, we're coming in and doing certain work.
Okay. On the second page there, it says page 3, but actually it's page 2. Should there be a verb there? It says the third whereas on page 1, it ends by saying, and during the performance of the work to substantially its condition existing prior to commencement of the work. Should that state during the performance of the work to substantially restore?
I don't know where you are, I'm sorry, I'm not on.
The top page, the second page, Chris,
Oh, there's,
says,
I'm
there's
sorry.
a word
I'm
missing
gonna
or
stop. I'm
something.
gonna stop you. You're missing page 2.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry, the original document was double-sided, I apologize.
Oh.
I'm sorry, the original document was single-sided, and I was
That's
copying a
what I
bunch of
think.
double-sided
Okay.
stuff, so, sorry, I
The sentence
apologize.
just didn't make any sense.
No, there's 3 total
Maybe
pages.
this is lawyerese and I'm not
No,
familiar with it.
exactly.
So, well, Casey, what's on page 2?
Okay, page 2, I'll read it.
And which one are you on? Because I have several.
Well, this is the consent to enter.
Well, there's 10, I gave you an example, I didn't want to copy all 10 of them, there's no reason to.
They're all the same.
Yeah, what's the name, John, on the front? It should
The
be,
name here is Goodell,
okay, hold on.
Michael, and Samantha.
Yep, hold on. Okay, so on page 2, it stops with "and" on the first page.
Right.
There's a whereas, in order to access the culvert and perform the work, the township has requested owner's permission to enter, disturb, regrade, and restore a portion of the property within the drainage easement, and whereas the township has requested that owners grant the township a temporary construction easement to allow the township and its agents, employees, and contractors to temporarily enter into the property for the purpose of performing the work. Now therefore, in consideration of the mutual promises contained herein, and intending to be legally bound, the owners agree as follows. Number 1, owners shall grant to the township and the township's agents, employees, and contractors the right to enter into the property in order to access the culvert and perform the work in accordance with sound engineering and construction principles. The township and its agents, employees, and contractors shall perform any and all work on the property in a careful and expeditious manner so as to create the least possible interference with the owners, use and enjoyment of their property. And number 2, the township shall 1, backfill any areas excavated, 2, compact the ground as may be appropriate, and 3, fully restore the surface of the ground to substantially its condition existing prior to the disturbance, including but not limited to by seeding it with grass as may be necessary to restore the surface of the property to substantially its condition existing prior to each disturbance. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the owners agree that the township may disturb the portion of the paved asphalt driveway located within the drainage easement as may be necessary in the township's sole discretion to access the culvert and perform the work, provided, however, that upon the completion of the work, the township shall repair and replace such portion of the driveway disturbed during the performance of the work, page 3, to substantially its conditions existing prior to the commencement of the work. So that was the promise to them, especially those 4 or 5 with driveways, that we will completely fixed.
Could you send us the second page
I
and
sure will.
include that with this, so we
Yep.
have the full document?
I sure.
Thank you.
So we're looking for a motion to approve these consents to enter for, is it 9 properties?
Yes.
Hugh has made that motion.
I'll second.
John has seconded. Are there any final board comments or questions? Is there any questions from Doug? Okay, so we're ready to take a vote. All those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed?
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
So do we need to discuss the easement for Sunset Hollow? Is there approval needed for that as well? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it should be, because we're obligating town to certain promises. So I think it's a legal contract that you should have authority to sign as chairman.
Okay.
Again, there is on the recorded subdivision and land development plan for this property, there is an indication of easement. It's not very clear, it's very hard to read. It doesn't give any details. And I think we're working outside of the confines of the existing easement a little bit. I think we're trying to widen it. It would be very difficult to stay within the confines of the easement shown on the land development plan. So we're trying to remedy, as the agreement explains, a portion of the pipe has collapsed. So we're going to remove the failing portions, install a replacement pipe. We've asked for a temporary construction easement over 10,569 square feet and a permanent easement over, well, now the 30-foot wide drainage and sanitary easement, what previously on the plan shown as 20-foot wide.
Right. And the only compensation the owner asked for was the placement of 3 or 4 bushes, which are
Trees.
not a big expense.
No, we want bushes.
Yeah, he switched.
Well, it says trees in here.
There's a discussion as to what exactly constitutes a tree versus
Yeah.
shrub. So
But no, he's
we
very
call them
specific
shrubs.
as to what he wants.
Yeah, which is fine. They're extremely inexpensive.
Was it like arborvitae or something?
No,
Yeah,
I think we are putting an arc in.
Yeah, well,
Replacement of the tree.
Replacement of a tree, but it's not.
Some kind of it's a willow of
Yeah,
some sort.
it's a willowy.
It's not a tree
Oh, it's
tree.
not a tree, okay.
Yeah.
But they're not trees, right?
Well,
I think willow's not a tree.
Well, no, a willow is a tree. This is a willow something. Kind of looks like a willow, but it doesn't have a main leader on it.
Yeah, it's more of a, to me it looks like a bush, but it's considered a tree, not whatever.
Did you bring a photograph for next time we have these conversations?
We actually had I don't have it, the Carroll Engineering has it. They had to take a picture so we could get the exact.
You know exactly
And
what he was
did
asking.
you were all like that exact?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got a couple others on the other side of the street, so.
David, on this it says 3 reinforced concrete stormwater pipes. I thought, is that what we had?
No, we have one.
No, I know we have 1, but I thought we were going to 2.
We were going to go 2, but there's really not much expense to go to 3, and we already had to get these.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
We're tired of cleaning the mud out there. I hope
I
that
hear
takes
you.
care of the
I'm tired
problem.
of driving through that mud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions? Hugh has made a motion to approve the easement agreement between the township and the property owner. Is there a second? Second. Any final comments or questions? No? Okay, thanks. All right, all those in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thanks, Casey. Kristen?
You?
And then next on the agenda is approval of the bill, discussion of possible approval of a proclamation celebrating the 50th anniversary of the West Goshen Lions Club. And I believe we have a proclamation here. I don't intend to read it out other than to say that the proclamation honors the fact that the West Goshen Lions Club has a 50th anniversary this year, and we will celebrate it throughout this year in honor of their ongoing excellent service to the community, in particular to those with disabilities related to eyesight. And one of the main things they do is the fundraising to provide eye exams and eyeglasses to people in need. So,
I'd like to make the motion to make this proclamation.
thank you, John. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board or the public? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
I would like to say, first of all, thank you as a Lion, and I'd like to invite the board to join the membership if you so desire.
Thank you, Hugh. Appreciate everything you've done for this community organization.
I've been a Lion for 52 years, I guess.
You were there from 1971 or not?
Well,
I've
been
somewhere else over in West Goshen?
No, Westchester. What happened was, Westchester had one club that spun off 3 clubs. That spun off the West Goshen, which was 50 years ago, and I was already in the Westchester club at that time. And that's kind of hard since I'm 38 and a half. So
There you go.
I'm 6 months younger than Jack Benny.
Nobody's counting.
And then they spun off Breakfast Club too, so, but those are the 2 remaining at this point. So there's 3 clubs total. But yeah, I transferred to the West Goshen Club.
Thanks, Hugh.
Yeah, it's the largest service club in the world. People don't realize it, but it's worldwide. It's a major endeavor. Thank you for giving us the proclamation.
You're welcome. Last agenda item tonight is approval of the bills to be paid to the general fund, the sewer revenue fund, the waste and recycling fund, and the capital reserve fund.
I'd like to make a motion to approve those payments.
He was once again taking the lead in making a motion. Is there a second for payment of the bills?
Yes, I'll pay for the bills. Well, not personally, but in general terms.
Thank you for your second, Robin. Is there any board questions or comments on the bills to be paid? Hearing none. Joe, do you have any questions on the bills? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the bill of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Thank you. Last agenda item is an opportunity for public comment. Nothing else, Tony?
House on Pike is all paved.
Yeah, it's not surprised.
It's going to last about 10 minutes. Honestly, it's going to fall apart.
Well,
It's good, right?
Yeah, it's been pushed off 3 years at least, so pops up, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
You have a comment?
Yeah, I'd like to remind everybody that the Goshen Fair is going on this week.
Yep.
As manager of the Hay and Grain exhibit.
Oh, very nice.
I would invite you to come see our agricultural tent and see the animals. Like the goats, yesterday and today as goats. We have a large animal barn. Any number of good educational exhibits.
You're the hay and grain chair. I want to get that right. I was like, hay and grain chair. Good.
I'm the department manager, right?
Department manager of hay and grain.
Do you have a lot of sanitizer available for kids who want to pet the animals?
Yeah, those petting and
Absolute
salmonella.
No salmonella.
There's also hand sanitizer for the adults who touch the kids afterwards.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a washing station there
Oh, good.
Thank you for that reminder. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, the other people,
Yeah.
this is a short agenda.
Sure. My recollection is some ridiculous amount of, like $6 million
Yeah, at each maintenance facility.
Yeah.
The
So-
maintenance facility we were at had 10
All right.
trucks.
10 trucks.
Yeah.
Now, it's
Yeah.
you're driving,
You would think it would be regional,
yeah.
it's not.
If you're driving east on the turnpike from here, it's on the right hand side, it's on the flag, you're,
Oh, no, they put,
Oh, yes,
they put
I read it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, that's right.
that,
Do you
It's on my
good?
calendar.
Okay, all right, good.
it's ridiculous. And the other problem,
Sitting
you
there,
can't
that's not even
actually
dirty.
water.
She was-
Because they're just spraying it here. So, and she was caught.
Okay,
I'll get it.
and then we also heard the original.
That's very crazy. And
Well, actually, let you.
See it the water.
Okay. And this one's ready.
Oh, they do, okay. All right, see you.
no, that's actually worse. Back in the 70s, 80s, that was the yeah. The Z-March one, and Rusty somewhere else.
Here.
Sure.
Problem with that is,
And then he said,
absolutely full of
so we talked to the state.
I just finished
Okay.
that.
All right, fine.
I didn't realize that they made this up.
They dug we knew the plumber
Yeah.
installed that, did you tell them?
No.
Okay, so, plumber installed,
And
this is the
so,
one
I either had faith or
by the
should
northeast
come to my
extension.
house pretty much.
He did the
3
plumbing
or 4
work for
times.
Asheville here. He
I
said
get
they
really crying when I
they
figured
designed
that
it, he
out.
was the installation guy, he was design.
Yeah.
The water pressure is so
So much
high,
trouble.
so high, they were knocking meters off.
All right.